please welcome to the stage, Polly Superstar.
I'm going to take this. Okay. Stay in the light. I will. Hi, everyone. So I've heard enough stories on this stage about Kinky Salon to know that you perverts come to my parties. But you might be surprised to hear that at the first Kinky Salons, people didn't have sex. Right? No! It's true. Well, actually, no, it's not true. I'm lying. A few people had sex. There was like blowjobs on the dance floor and like a little cunnilingus on the couch. But generally, it wasn't the naked pile-up that it is these days. Things transitioned. I noticed that things were starting to transition in this one room in particular, which was all the way up at the front of the building. And we had painted it a dazzlingly Pepto-Bismol pink. And there were couches all the way around the room, and it was kind of loungy. And this room had taken on a completely different vibe to the rest of the party, which was mainly kind of kink-oriented. And I noticed I was doing my rounds of the party, and I poked my head in the door, and I could see the shadows kind of slowly gyrating in the darkness. And I was like, holy shit, people are having sex in the pink room. Right? And it wasn't that I had anything against people having sex. They kind of looked around and slowed just slightly, like, is this okay? Are we allowed to have sex in the pink room? And I was like, yeah, sure, have sex in the pink room. Whatever, I might just have to, like, rethink the upholstery. You know what I'm saying? But there was a reason that I didn't want to throw a sex party, and that was my reputation. I thought that if I became known as a sex party hostess, then my dreams of cultural change would be dashed, that my ambitions as an event producer, as a community builder, and as a social commentator would be just tarnished forever by this reputation. So I shied away from it. So I was pretty horrified one day when I opened my local newspaper and discovered that Kinky Salon had won an award. Best Sex Club in San Francisco. And I was like, what the fuck? Kinky Salon is not a sex club. I've been to sex clubs. I know what those places are like. They smell of bleach, and men wearing towels slightly too small chase you around and desperately try and jack off on you. You've been to those places, I know you have, because you're perverts. But Kinky Salon wasn't like that, and it still isn't. So I called the editor of The Guardian, and I was like, how dare you call my beautiful, creative community a sex club? You're making it so base. That's not what it is. You should have done your research. I will not accept this award and never write about Kinky Salon ever again. And I slammed down the phone like, fuckers. And then I was in the office talking to Scott, who was my partner at the time, and we used to throw the events together. And we kind of had this conversation going back and forth, like, oh, God, what are we going to do now? We've been called a sex club. It's kind of like when you have naked photographs on the internet, you know? You can never really go back from that. They'll always be out there. And so I knew that this Best of the Bay award would always be out there, tarnishing my reputation. So I did what any sensible person would do in the circumstances. I said, fuck it, let's throw a sex party. Because if I'm going to be a sex party hostess, at least I'll be an award-winning sex party hostess. You know, and so to prepare for this event, we hauled 2 California king-size beds up the back stairs, and we laid them side by side in this huge space that we gigglingly named the horizontal socializing space. And as the party started, it felt very similar to the other events that we had thrown. People arrived, there were volunteers, people dressed in costumes, there was flirting and dancing, and there was a cabaret, and then after the cabaret, people started fucking. And this was sex in a way that I had never seen it before. I mean, I kind of played the exhibitionist at those sleazy sex clubs. I had been to private parties where sex was really the only thing on the agenda, and if you were not going to put out, you really should go home or it might be awkward. You know those parties? Sitting on the couch like, oh, I don't know. Maybe I should just go. But this was different. It was like sex was integrated into the social fabric of the event. It didn't feel separate and it didn't feel weird. It just felt kind of normal, but at the same time, all my friends were there and my community was there, and I was like, this is kind of weird. Like, what if I meet someone? What if it happens? What if I have sex tonight in front of all my friends? Will that be weird? I don't know. And then I met this really hot guy. His name was Daniel, and he had this flop of fair hair and freckles and dimples when he smiled, and broad shoulders, and this like incredibly kind of feminine swan-like neck. And we were hanging out in the bar and talking, and he kept leaning just a little bit too close to me to be polite as we were talking. And I was like, oh God, this guy's really hot, what am I gonna do? And I did what any sensible person would do. I took him in the back room. And I remember distinctly as he lowered me onto the bed with these really passionate kisses around me on all sides. I could see from my peripheral vision this like montage of erotic possibility. I was just like, wow, hi everyone. And I thought to myself, wow, I'm kind of proud. I'm like, fuck yeah, this feels right. This feels good. You know, these crazy people, they're my tribe. These mad pleasure seekers, these pioneers of love. And I was like, overwhelmed with this sense of pride. And I don't actually think I did anything more than make out with Daniel that night. The point wasn't to have sex. That was the whole point, was that all options were possible, and that I could go and participate and be part of this erotic scene in my community without any pressure or weirdness or feeling sleazy or feeling stared at or feeling uncomfortable, and it just felt really right. And so a couple of hours later, at the end of the evening, I was sitting on the couch with a bunch of friends, and we were just really comfortable around each other at that point, just kind of lounging and making this kind of Fellini-esque montage, looking like the love children of the Marquis de Sade and Pee-wee's Playhouse. You know, kind of colorful costumes half ripped off, just like, darling, oh. And we were talking about culture and the future and the party and sexuality and what it all meant. And this guy came out of the pink room, and he was naked, and he looked distressed. And he was holding a toy tiger. And he held it up and he went, "What the fuck is wrong with this tiger?" And I was like, I hadn't really paid much attention to the tiger. It had been living in the pink room for a few weeks. To be honest, I don't even really know where it came from. But sure enough, when he showed me, I was like, there's something really weird about that tiger's face. Like, it was like a mass-produced toy that had been misprinted. So it was kind of like looking at you like this. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with this tiger's face? And so each of us looked at it and either like squealed and threw it away, like, God, take that thing away from me, I can't even look at it. Or smile and like nod knowingly. And this guy kind of disappeared back into the playroom, like mumbling something about like, Jesus Christ, I can't fuck with that thing watching me. And, you know, I realized in a weird way that we had created our own myth. Like the Sphinx of ancient Egypt, which is a guardian of a gateway. In order to pass, you have to be pure of heart. Well, for Kinky Salon, it's different. If, at the end of the night, you can look into the eyes of the judgmental tiger, and feel no remorse and no shame for what you've done, then you pass. I actually brought the tiger with me. Can you see how fucked up his face is? Yeah, fuck you, tiger. Thank you.
Award-winning sex party producer, Polly Superstar.